Lead X. X is for the extracurricular life of the Ateneo College students. X is for the X factor that transforms them into leaders, into men and women for others. X is for Lead X. Lead X.
Down from the hill.
Cut! Good take! Want to hear our take on all your favorite filmy things? Tune in to Clapback, the radio show for film critics, production news, pop culture, and social commentary, serving as a place for our voice in our cinematic universe. Hosted by the Loyola Film Circle, Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Only here on radyo-katipunan 87.9 FM. Action!
To listen to music that uplifts the soul, follow jescom.ph on Spotify and Jescom Music on YouTube. Our music is also available on iTunes and Deezer.
Give your day's dose of music for the soul. Listen to the music of ACS, Bukas Palad, Hangad, Himig Haswita, Musika Kiaza, and many more. Click on this link to learn more.
Radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, katipunan, radyo, katipunan, radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, katipunan. Voice of the Blue Eagle kami, di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atin sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng eskwela. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, radyo, katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Kawan ni Ignacio, katipunero sugod. Todo sa kayod, tunong at tulong. Lipa the Blue Eagle, galing hiding at tigil.
This is your stop for all things pop. Catch our all-around pop culture geek, Cholo Sediaren, as he throws in some dose of what's poppin' and what's hot in the pop culture scene here on Popcorn. Munchin' with us every Thursdays from 4 to 6, only here on radyo-katipunan 87.9 FM.
In 3, 2, and what's poppin'? And welcome to Popcorn with Cholo Sediaren. We stop for all things pop, where we talk about all things pop culture from here in the Philippines to the rest of the globe. Welcome back, everyone. And this is our lockdown anniversary special. Should we call it a special? Maybe not even a special. It's just our lockdown anniversary sad. But before we begin our formal discussion, of course, let's welcome back our co-hosts. I haven't seen a lot of these people on the show for a while, so I'm really happy everyone's back. Where do we begin? Grab it, All-Stars? All-Stars today. Of course, we have Emil, the Emil of the Twitters. Is here. Welcome back.
Not gonna dignify that with a response.
We have Deany's back. We haven't seen Deany in a while.
Yay.
Hello. After 8 months.
Yes.
Oh, shit.
Almost.
12. A year.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Almost a year.
Oh,
We also have Jer. Hello. And Ferns is also here.
Hello.
Our Twitter verified. Well,
yeah. Blue check.
and finally, last but not the least, well, kailangan talaga
The most.
ang ating banal na bisita dito. Tama ba yun? Bisita banal. We have the Jason Tan Liwag in the house from the 20-somethings podcast. Well, may podcast na rin siya.
Yeah, of course.
Yay!
Welcome back, Jace. We miss you.
Hello, I'm happy to be here.
So yun, welcome back everyone. It's been a while. This is our first roundtable session in a while as well. So our topic for the week is generally lockdown anniversary and award season thoughts. So first lockdown anniversary stuff. Well, it's officially been a year since the Philippines went on a hard lockdown that resulted to pretty much nothing a year after. And ayun, what can we say about that? First of all, ang loaded ng question na yun. How has the past year been for all of us? Of course, we're lucky enough, we're privileged enough to be in our own spaces and still be able to do this for the last year or so. I mean, it's been so long since we've been in the radyo-katipunan studio, which is where we usually hold our recordings. Ayun. What a loaded question to begin the show. Well, si Jace has skyrocketed into the Twitter world. That's for sure.
Why are you making that?
Para yun yung ano, 1 year
I need to catch you up eh.
Ako ba mauna? Ako na mauna. Fine. Yeah, like, obviously, like, there are so many things that have changed since last year on a personal level, but I'll start to go on a macro level. Wow. Like, obviously, most cinemas have been closed for a really long time. So, how personally, I haven't watched a movie in a conventional theater in more than a year now. I think the last film I watched was Little Women, and theaters are still closed. So, theater actors still doing that Zoom theater thing that I've decided not to participate in, at least as for the moment. Ako personally, I've gotten into film criticism and it's kind of been okay. Ayun.
Okay, though.
Check out his work on CNN Live, on Raptor,
Oo nga.
everywhere.
Anyway,
Vlog.
We stand.
thank you. But
And you know, I'm so happy I got to watch ano yun, Next to Normal before it closed down. Like, how many shows did you have at that point?
we had 7, I think. We had 7 that weekend. Two on Sunday, 2 on Saturday, and then 3, from Wednesday to Friday. Yeah. So super sad. Like, obviously it's so sad because, like, although, like, objectively, alam kong maraming things nag-improve about, like, yung pandemic response natin. Like, alam ko na meron ng mga contact tracing systems in different places. Alam ko mga ganun. Parang, pero hindi pa rin siya enough to curb it eh. So, ITAF, please do your job. This is from me. And also, like, I feel very sad that, like, there are so many people, especially from the arts industry, but also even in the sciences, na hindi nila matapos yung mga ginagawa nila or hindi pa nila matapos yung thesis nila. That's me right now, so I write. But yeah, I'm otherwise okay. At least ako personally.
Thanks, Jace. Anyone else?
Thank you.
The reflections. Wow, reflections. What was the last movie everyone has seen in a theater before everything closed down?
Little Women.
Little Women.
Birds of Prey.
Oh,
I watched
Bad. That's not bad.
That's bad.
Yeah, Birds
Onward was my last one with
same. I was on.
Ren,
I was supposed
and
to see
another
Onward.
friend. And we cried, and it was a nice last experience because people were crying. So I missed that.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, yun na nga, as Jace was saying, everything just really changed from the closing down of movie theaters, actual stage theaters. Is that what you call it? It is, right? It's just like we haven't been there. We don't even know what it's called anymore.
Oh my gosh.
Concerts, gigs. Like,
Yes.
I've never been to a concert or a gig. So, like, when am I ever going to experience that? So,
I think one of the biggest crimes of this lockdown is we never had the chance to listen to Cardi B Swap playing in a club, in a packed sweaty club.
Rain on Me.
Rain
Yeah.
on Me.
Rain on Me.
we keep on saying that the last best thing that ever happened that we got to have a public celebration was Iglesia ni Carly Day.
Yes.
Was October
Yep. That was a good
2019.
night.
2019.
That was so long ago. But like in general, I mean, coming off of what Jace has mentioned, like what aside from what we miss about, of course, watching live acts or watching films in bigger screens with better sound systems, like what habits have changed in terms of like how we've been consuming media, and what things have you appreciated more in the last year?
I'll go.
I can go. Go.
So-
Go ahead. No, you
Sige.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Sige. It's so easy now to reconnect with your friends. And I wonder nga, after the pandemic blows over, are we still gonna go out after work and go to a restaurant and spend hundreds or even thousands to have a dinner out with friends? Or will you just log on to Zoom? I wonder how video conferencing will shape the way we reconnect with people, both in like the work sphere and reconnecting with your friends, because it's so convenient now.
But at the same time, I feel like my eyes hurt so much from just looking at the screen the whole day. I mean, after for work stuff, of course, you're using your laptop to go on conference meetings, to write your work, and then afterwards, you watch your content on the screen, you meet your friends on the screen. It's just like sometimes very overwhelming. And I feel like the anxiety of going back into society is also another parang thing I'm scared of in general. Na parang, how will we like, it's just weird being, sometimes I go to shoots for work and like, it's just like nice to be with people. At the same time, you're scared of being with people. And then what more if it's like the general community we're all back in, na, diba? But yeah, that's a fair,
I agree with
that's a
that.
good question. Go, Deany.
Yeah, I'm with you in that. There's just so many more things you have to be aware of in Zoom. Like, am I coming through? Is my connection okay? And that's always in my brain because I do a lot of work calls. So sometimes I explain a lot, and then it turns out like no one heard anything. So I like the idea of face to face just because I don't have to be constantly thinking, oh, are they hearing what I'm saying? Can they see my face? Did it freeze with my face in like an awkward position? Like, I like the face to face stuff. I think I'll miss it, and I think the first, like, as soon as I feel safe going out, I probably will like go out like a lot. Just I miss like a public space. Sometimes I go out to get like Starbucks because there's a Starbucks near my house, and I just go out to get sometimes. Like that's the furthest I go from my house, and then it's like I would love to spend more time here just to like dawdle, but like no, I have to leave right away, and I miss the electricity of a public space. Is what I'm trying to say, I guess.
I agree to the extent that like when it's safe to go out and most people are immune and stuff. Hopefully it happens sooner than later. I feel like I'm never gonna say no to like a friend thing anymore. Like when people ask me, like, are you doing anything this weekend? I'm just gonna sure, whatever, let's do whatever. But like weirdly enough, I still feel like I won't. It'll take me a while before I enter like really crowded places again. I feel like I'm gonna take the mask wearing habit to certain places forever now, like cinemas or public transport. Definitely. I mean, it just sort of like this whole situation has made us realize that a lot of the stuff we do every day that we take for granted is actually like these are the places where we usually get sick. Like most of the times I've gotten sick is because of watching movies in these hotbeds of viruses and bed bugs. I have gotten bed bugs from cinemas.
Oh my gosh.
Horrible. It's such a horrible experience.
Saan cinema yan?
Emil, honestly, I know what you're talking about and which cinema you're talking about. Pero yeah.
Oh God. Maybe more than one.
Where is that?
I don't want to. I mean, I feel like it's on me. It's on me. It's on me. It's not on the cinema. It's on me for not taking a bath when I get home. But yeah, I mean, yeah. So I'm like on a personal level, like I feel like I've just been like going through various cycles of like there are long periods of time when it's just like really really tough and really depressing, and then there are other times when you suddenly get the motivation to work on things. So like just recently, like last few weeks, thanks to Dren and some of my other friends, like they really encouraged me to like work, like because I expressed a desire to gain some weight because I lost weight during the pandemic, which is not good for me. And I was scared about trying to work on my body. But they encouraged me, and in the last few weeks, I think I've gained like 3 pounds, which is like not a lot, but I'm very, very happy happy about it. So yeah, where did Cholo go? Okay, there. But yeah, so those are my life updates.
Yeah, and speaking of masks, I must say it's so nice to have a mask because you can like hide your expression sometimes. Like I feel like
Difference the eyes.
depends. I feel like it would be nice to continue wearing masks for that reason. Sometimes you just can't keep a straight face and their mask hides it. But it's just like a fun like purpose for that as well. I would I would agree about wearing masks continuously.
I just want to say, as a suki ng angkas, I love wearing a mask.
Yeah,
That's
same.
what I love it. So I've been getting to the habit even before, like months before the pandemic even happened, and that's why I'm proud na have my own personal mask and stuff.
Like, even before the pandemic, I'm glad that Angkas trained me to
Yeah.
breathe through a piece of fabric. So, thank you, Angkas.
Thank you, Angkas.
R.I.P.
Please sponsor
That's
me.
right.
Pero all of the actually going off of what Emil said, like it also exposed like so many things na unhygienic na dapat like we're more mindful of. Like
Mhm.
yun nga, yung sa angkas, yung sa helmets and ano pa ba? Yung wait lang. Sorry, natatawa ako kasi ina-imagine ko pa lang. People don't usually wipe their phones. People don't usually wash their hands. Meron pang really specific one that I keep on forgetting.
Yung ball pit sa McDo, yung sa kids area. that's just gonna be filthy now.
Oh my gosh.
Playground, hindi, not the playground. But yeah, ayun.
Be like, you're so OA. Why do you spray everything with alcohol? Did you live through
2020
pandemic?
My gosh. Maybe, hopefully, wala nang pandemic by that time.
Oh, you know what
God.
I miss? I miss walking into clothing stores, trying on clothes, and not buying them. Like, I just miss fitting clothes on. Like, iba pa rin when you buy clothes online. It's like,
It's really a hit or miss.
yeah, it's hit or miss, and also, where will I wear it?
Mhm.
So, like, yeah. Nowadays, when I go to the grocery once a week, it's my one trip out of the house. I dress up because I miss it. I saw this meme of like this girl in a big ruffly gown in the grocery, and I'm like, same.
Sorry.
So, ayun. I mean, there's a lot to complain about, a lot to be grateful about in the past year. I guess in terms of pop culture or things that you've managed to discover this past year, ano yung mga favorite discoveries yun na you didn't really have the time for now that we have a bit more time, although time is really blurred and we don't even know if it's what kind of a concept it is anymore. What's your favorite lockdown discovery? I will start off with anime. Thanks to Paula again and again. I would say this. I mean, I did watch anime before when we were kids, but mostly like a few episodes or like not really like be diving deep into the story or the narrative and being invested. And because of the pandemic or during the time of the pandemic, I got to watch more. Like I think I've seen 5 or 6. Yun, that's one of my favorites. And of course, K-pop. I got really invested into K-pop this year. So a lot of interesting, more Asian stuff than usual, than before. And yun, that's mine. Kayo?
Ako, I have three things na come to mind. First is just Stardew Valley, which is a game na, in like retrospect, is extremely like me, but I never got the chance to play because I didn't have time for like another thing to do. So video games is what I had to cut off. But I discovered Stardew Valley, and I'm like, it's so nice to just spend a nice chill 2 hours working on your little farm, feeding your cows. It feels normal. There's normalcy in Stardew Valley. So that's been very nice. I've also gotten into like letter writing. I joined like a pen pal program
Aw.
thing. Tapos I've been corresponding with my pen pal from Brooklyn, and it's been
Wow.
very like
I love
it's
that.
because lot of life changes happened to me in like over the pandemic, which I can't talk about. But marami nangyari. It's nice to have someone that you can correspond with long form about just what's going on with your life.
And these are
The last
actual handwritten letters.
No, we email because we're both impatient. I
How,
have
hashtag dyan nagsisimula yan. Just say it.
Yeah. Sign me up. Joke.
How often do you guys exchange letters?
siguro every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, though the last round she just replied after like a month. So medyo like I'm gonna like I'm also too busy to reply now. So I guess we're gonna like reply less because work is wild. But yun, it's fun. It's nice because there's no like it's a new thing that I came into because of like the pandemic. So it's a nice reminder that it's not all like awful. It's mostly awful, but there are some nice things like that crop up sometimes.
How
I
do
guess
you
the third
join
thing
that
is just
program?
Same.
I will I'll send the link sa I'll send the link sa
Yay!
chat after
Yes.
after the meeting. Oh, meeting este.
Oh
I
my
once,
god.
Yeah.
After this.
Eto na
We're gonna
po,
deliver you.
magkakatawa na po ako.
ito na
You've got
po ang
mail.
pinakahintay nating lahat dito.
Anyway,
Yeah, remind me na lang. I might forget because these usually go on for a while.
Before
Yeah.
before your third one, I was gonna say
Mhm.
I once had joined an app that's also the same concept of writing letters, but it's digital. And what happens is that kunwari your pen pal is in the States, then the message would only send to that person the same time it would actually reach them if it were a physical thing.
oh,
It's a pretty cool app,
That's
but
cool.
I
That's
kind
nice.
of stopped for a while. I'm gonna also search what the app is called. I mentioned it like last year.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So what's your third one?
My third one, and it's kind of related to the other question about habits in the pandemic. My third one is just I've kind of fully like abandoned keeping up with current cinema, except for like a month in the start of the year where I do everything.
Mhm.
Uh, Probably I've like doubled down on like discovering older hidden gems, and I find a little more joy in
Yeah.
like an old film from like 1982 by a black female director who hasn't gotten her flowers till now, versus like whatever the new film du jour is. Parang I feel like there's a different kind of joy in rediscovery rather than discovery. And and I find about things about from like other people anyway who so the films by the time I watch them they've already gotten their flowers. But every time I watch like a really old Indian movie or whatever from 1960 or whatever, there's like a similar kind of joy, and I feel less pressure to be keeping up with everything. So that's nice. That's my third thing.
I would agree with you in terms of ano naman na the fact that I kind of accepted that I'm not gonna be able to catch up to everything at this point. So I'm just like, there's sometimes the pressure of like, oh, everyone's watching this. This is the
Yeah.
current thing. You have to watch this, and then the next big thing comes out like the week after, and I'm like, you know what? I tried, but like I feel like I'm just gonna take it at my own pace at this point, and just enjoy it whenever. And I think Jace can relate, and I feel like a lot of people can relate also. Yung the movies you haven't seen before in your whole life, na parang sometimes you just I just I guess more like you don't have to like fear the fact that you haven't seen that, and just like enjoy it now that you get to watch it for the first time. Parang ganun. So
Indeed.
yeah, those are my thoughts on that aspect.
Oh my God. Pwede ako yung sumunod. Okay lang ba?
Yeah.
Go.
Oh my God. Okay, so picking up off of what Deany said, actually, ang sinusundan ko lang for like recent film update is si Emil.
Right. I do it so you guys don't have to.
Thanks,
Thank
Emil.
you,
Meron
Emil.
na ako,
Thank you.
meron na akong slight barometer of like,
Wag naman, grabe.
slight lang. Parang, ayun, like today, oh my God, I watched Nomadland today. And my God.
Eh,
Anyway, but yeah, I agree. Actually, ako, yung one of the nicest things that I discovered during the pandemic, at least apart from the whole film criticism thing and all of these old films, right? Online film festivals, there are so many of them. There are so many of them happening around the globe. And at least ako, I'm lucky enough kasi I can apply to be press. So I can watch things for free. Ganun. And sobrang galing na Southeast Asian filmmakers. Like, oh my God, amazing. Like, sobrang amazing. And the cool thing is that I get to interact with other like people from press abroad. And the filmmakers, actually, when I talk to them, because most of them, syempre hindi nila pwedeng ma-screen yung films nila to like somewhere, right? So parang nakausap ko sila, tapos they really volunteer to give me like, oh, I have this short film from this year, maybe it can help you write about this thing, parang ganun. So they give me links to their short films or their feature length films. And sobrang cool lang dun kasi parang I feel like at least the online aspect has helped more people discover certain spaces that I don't think would be accessible to them. Diba? If wala yung online version. And I hope actually that like may option yung mga people to actually watch things online para mas accessible siya to a global audience. Although miss ko ang cinema. Sobrang miss ko ang cinema.
That's true. But I have a question for you because of bouncing off of that is what's your advice for people who want to start film criticism? I mean, or like some sort of parang hobby or like at least passion. It parang syempre diba a lot of us are scared to start it at our age or at a certain age. And also like in terms of like reaching out to people like other filmmakers, like what's your advice in terms of that since you experienced it a lot the past few months?
Honestly, kapal lang siya ng mukha. Kasi like legit, like even ako, like with what I write, like I don't think it's the best thing in the world. Alam mo yun? Like it's never gonna be the best thing in the world. Parang if I look back at it parang 50 years from now, am I gonna like it? Probably not. Pero the two main pieces of advice is to read a lot, like in general, which is also one of the things that sabihin ko dapat actually is that so many people have been writing more. So marami akong binabasa things. Binabasa ko yung what everyone here actually, right? So, and then to write more. Minsan it's just about sitting down and actually like writing. Pero with like networking with people, I started a film club. That's one of the things that I liked about this year was that I started a film club and parang I get to talk to like from 16-year-old to parang 54-year-olds in the same room, like about this one film and what they thought about it and how they watched it the first time and what their first opinion was. And no holds barred talaga, as in, I remember we talked about Fangirl and we talked about pero isang lawyer na in-explain niya differences between all of these legal terms. And then yung isang girl in-explain niya like what her high school experience was like. So parang ganun. Parang it's just more of being unafraid of actually writing it kasi you're never gonna write something perfect for everyone, but you will write something that will resonate with someone. And I think that's the most important.
I like that.
Yeah. Yun for me. Pero obviously, may mga film critics dito na sabihin parang like, don't write just about the actors. Write about all of the technical elements. And I think given naman, parang there are ways to understand that. Pero for me, it's just read more, and write something that resonates with you. Wow, ang daming sinabi.
On the like related to the concept of reading, about the concept of reading, like that's something that I like finally picked up again, which is embarrassing to admit as a creative writing graduate, that like I just haven't been reading like the last few years talaga. So I'm starting small, and I started reading the thesis chapbooks of my course mates from like 2012 up to today, and it's so inspiring because it brings me back to being a creative writing senior, writing my own thesis. And like it's not like high art necessarily, it's not like the pinnacle of literature, but I find it so satisfying to read stuff from students, just because you can feel like just how much they needed to put those stories out there. Even if it's like genres that I don't necessarily want to write myself, or if it's stuff that I don't necessarily understand, like I still like it gives me hope again, in a very sort of cheesy way, because it like just reminds me that like, to me at least, like creating and writing and whatnot, it's really not about like making something good. Like if you keep thinking to yourself that I want to do this thing because I want it to be good, I feel like it sort of boxes itself in. So for me, like when I read things that were written by seniors or creative writing students in general, it's less about them wanting to impress, like, I don't know, the literature gods, and them just really needing to get something out there into the world. So that's something I completely forgot, like after I graduated, and it's nice to be reminded of it again. Yeah.
I want to follow up with what Emil said, because my thing, and I have a lot of other things I'll share later, but this one's in line and it follows the train of thought. I made a letterbox.
Everyone here is
And the reason why is I write for a living, and I feel like in the past 2-3 years or so, I lost the love for writing. And so I don't know, this is sort of like my little project to get that spark back up and write something that I actually like, and also like to track the movies I watch. It's funny because once I started following people, I saw the culture of Letterboxd na your top films have to be like Rashomon or The Seventh Seal, but then like my top film is like The Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah.
That's the more interesting one.
Yeah.
I love it. I can like talk about it, but this isn't the time or place. I have a lot. Oh, never
I feel
mind.
like I should be changing my top film to High School Musical at some point.
Go.
That's honestly more interesting than Rashomon. Like I don't like Rashomon, but everyone else loves it.
But so yeah, like as a writer, I try to make it a point to write about every film, kahit 5 lines lang, and to like my challenge to myself is to like really put my, to really think about what I'm writing. Hindi yung pucho-pucho lang, which is, at work. That's what happens more talaga. So, yeah, it's been fun. And in addition to that, I also started journaling again. So writing just for me. So what really helps as a writer to just like, without all the pressures of your editors or deadlines, you can just write for yourself. And I think that's beautiful because it's for yourself and for yourself only. Yeah.
Jeremiah and I were English Lit classmates. How many years ago? 8 years ago?
Oh no.
9 years ago?
Nine.
Oh my god.
9 years ago.
Crazy.
Yuck. I was thinking about this. I think most of us are batch 2012, except you, Perns, and Cholo, actually. We would have been in college.
And Deany.
And Deany. So, like, since next year, it's going to be 10 years since we set foot on Ateneo. Like,
I just can't imagine going to college and not experiencing like the full experience. it just
Oo
kind
nga.
of makes me sad.
Yeah.
The freshmen this year haven't met each other yet because I was invited to do like a small like intact talk for AJ Caricaño, and I realized that none of these creative writing freshmen have actually seen each other in person. I cannot imagine that because like I wouldn't have survived if I didn't have other human beings in the room with me.
And they're like
So-
org parties or block hangouts are really just all just digital. It's like,
My God.
wow.
Can I just say though, like someone from IFFR brought this up, which is kasama ko siyang film critic. So sabi niya, guys, I don't even know how tall you are.
Which is true.
You know what?
It's true.
That's such
That's that's vivid.
No, it's
Diba? Height does not matter.
no related to that though. Like I realized that it's so hard for me to connect with people if I don't know what they sound like. And like to me they're not like real yet until I can assign a tone of voice to their words. It's so weird. Like this, I don't know.
And their height and like noticing the way they dress, you can't form those subconscious judgments that we're so used to.
Yeah, like tama nga yung sabi ni Jace kasi like I got to meet some of my workmates for the first time. And then I didn't even know. I was like, wow, parang nagulat na ako na they're shorter than me. I was like, wow, you're not as tall as me at the very least. Because on Zoom you would just see like the same frame more or less. So it's just like crazy.
Your messages sound so tall.
You exude tall energy.
Wala lang. It's just like fun.
Ako naman, I haven't seen my office mates at all. Barely. I don't know what they look like. I don't know what they sound like, actually.
Even wala kayong like online meetings? Ganun.
I mean, we do, but it still sounds different, like when you're talking through a webcam and in person. I'm pretty sure I have never met any of them because I was only in the office for 3 days and then wala na, gone.
It's kind of sad nga because like a lot of people have started in my agency recently, or not recently, over the year. And like you can see that there's a clear divide, closeness-wise, between the people who have been there pre-pandemic and the people who just joined. Like there are little inside jokes na you can't really express through online.
And on that note, ganun din like yun nga, when you start in a online setting, you're infinitely more like attracted towards hanging out or talking to the people you've met in person versus those you just see online. Because it's so weird. Like, yun nga, the anxiety of like how we're gonna like re-enter society is just really crazy.
I just realized nga, like when I was thinking about like there are people who I've only met through like Twitter and whatnot, and I would love to like see them in person, but I realized that I don't like when that finally happens, I don't know what I'm going to do with my body. Like I don't remember anymore like how to orient myself or how to walk or how to stand. So I'm gonna need like a full week of like parang Queer Eye, but it's just teaching me how to walk and stand again.
You should make a video special. Queer Eye.
Emil, I will help you. I will get
Please. I also need clothes. Like I don't know how to dress myself anymore.
Yeah,
Yay!
Yeah.
I wanna see Tan France. Tan France. And who's Anthony? Who's Anthony in our group?
I know I'm Jonathan. But I'm kidding.
I'm the person you're supposed to make over.
Yeah.
So.
Exciting.
Ferns and any last like favorite discoveries before we head on to our next part? Jeremiah, go ahead.
I have stuff.
Go.
Wait. I've been one of those kind of basic, but I don't care. I'm basic. So, I got into plants. Mostly as a necessity because I was tired of not seeing life. So when you don't see your friends, like it's nice, it's kind of sad. But when you see a new leaf, like it's alive.
That's so true.
Yeah,
it's amazing
Yeah.
when the first new leaf comes out and you're like, what? You don't even.
I did that.
I did
I think
that.
Aww.
this is like one 1/1000th of what it feels like to be a parent, I think.
Sabi mo yan, okay.
Yeah, and another thing that unexpectedly I really like now, TikTok.
Okay.
Pre-pandemic, I thought it was like the app where young people dance, but it's so much more than that. There's so many genres. They talk
I'm
about
urging
dance.
Jeremiah to like really kickstart his TikTok career, like doing fashion.
Thinking about
reviews.
it.
You should really
Do it. Do it.
Contacts I do for like the past 3 years. I've been doing red carpet recaps on Instagram stories, and it's fun. It's like it's my little personal writing exercise to make me not totally hate my chosen field. But yeah, the TikTok algorithm is so chef's kiss, but also like data privacy concerns.
Yeah.
But yeah, TikTok is more than 16-year-olds doing choreographed dances. There's film TikTok. If you guys might like it.
So
Yeah.
scared.
Oh, James, ikaw na. Alam mo
Like,
na.
you
Film
know,
Twitter is good enough for me.
I mean,
Yung
they're,
Twitter.
they're mostly like 16 and 17, so you know.
Also, I pick them.
Well, so it's Film Twitter.
I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, even in the music industry, like TikTok's really what we look into,
Oh, yeah.
into what's trending, what's number one. You know, the number one song of the year,
Driver's
like
license.
8 week driver's
Sorry.
license, is a lot of thanks to TikTok and Olivia's popularity in TikTok, even before she released it. Even Heartbreak Anniversary by Giveon. It's also a
The
TikTok
algorithm
song.
kasi is so sophisticated.
Mhm.
Like context for those who don't have TikTok, you just get fed content that you like. Can you imagine? Like it doesn't depend on who you follow. Or
It's a black hole.
yeah, you just get fed content that you like. And how do they do that? It's scary and I don't know, but you get fed content that you like from whomever.
The robot,
So like
the robotics of it all, or AI, is like really.
the AI of it all.
This is Skynet. TikTok is Skynet.
Oh my God.
Oh
You know
no.
what? We had a discussion before na parang, is TikTok cinema? Tapos
Oh
parang,
God.
pero diba? Kasi short films before, as in the early short films, were 10 seconds long. Diba? Some of them, diba? So mga ganun. So para ako, okay naman. I think pwede naman. If I can log it into my letterbox, that would be great.
Oh, that'd be insane. That would be
TikTok
so
would be
crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Yung
Like-
top 4 mo puro TikTok.
Tapos puro rewatch siya, no? Like, that would be insane.
Paulit-ulit
Already
lang.
watched this 20 times.
Tapos nagkakaiba yung review. Oh my God.
I agree.
You know what? It's not far from happening. I mean, a lot of songs were created through TikTok, even musicals. through
Ratatouille, I was just gonna say,
Ratatouille, the
yeah.
musical.
Mhm.
And what was the
BLs
other one?
pala.
Bridgerton, the musical, also. And
Oh my God, it's a Bridgerton musical.
yeah,
Apparently.
That's a thing.
yes.
Sounds
It's
good.
also TikTok driven, I think. And you were saying about BLs?
No, like, that's another lockdown discovery. I didn't
That's
know that existed. Sorry. Hey.
It's a very lengthy discussion for another time, I feel. But I feel like since we had a BL episode last year, but that was at the onset of the BL phenomenon. I feel like we should have one again to like revisit what BL has become since then, especially since a lot of Pinoy BLs have emerged ever since that episode.
50 plus.
My gosh.
Plus. And counting, ha? And counting. Because they're still producing.
Shout out po sa mga taga-BL dyan. Joke.
Shout out po.
You know, speaking of quarantine phases, you know what's so funny? How short-lived this phase was. The cooking phase of quarantine. Parang at first, everyone was like, oh my God, Bon Appetit on YouTube. Le Creuset pots. I love cooking. And then a month later, people are like, screw it, I'm gonna grab food every day.
As soon as the places started opening ulit, I was like, bye.
Wala.
Hi, girl.
Oh my God.
Kasi that's back when people were still like super optimistic and they were like, you know what, this lockdown's gonna be only gonna last till like, mid 2020. Here we are,
The
12 months
chance to
later.
reconnect with ourselves. No.
Yeah.
I'm gonna learn so much.
Reconnecting sucks.
Like, I'm gonna learn so much new lessons and modules in the next 2 weeks before everything goes back to normal.
No.
Nope.
I'm gonna get in touch with my inner self. No, my inner self is scary.
Oh, my
Get me out of
no,
there.
I don't like me. No.
Help me therapy.
God, yeah.
I need therapy from myself.
Uy, pero lockdown discovery also. Online therapy.
Mhm.
Recommend.
Yeah. Ayun.
And online retail therapy, I must add.
Don't recommend.
Iba yan.
Can I just say, like every time it's like a 4-4 or a 3-3 or a whatever, like inaasahan ko na talaga that the Twitter gays will complain online about their purchases. Ayan.
That's such a Twitter gay cultural thing. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Sobrang true.
They'll buy a new tripod or something. Yeah.
Or new ring light.
New ring light. Ano yung uso ngayon? Sunset lamp po yun.
Mga sa Ida lamp, yeah.
I have no clue.
What is a sunset lamp?
It's
Or
like,
you just,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, just look at the viral Twitter tweets and you'll see someone
Yung parang
recommend
purple na
sun
may
lamp.
yellow parang ring.
Meron din dun sa Am I allowed to say this here? Because I don't know. If it's safe for work.
I-chat
Ano
mo
ba?
muna.
Wag na.
But that was thanks to Rose, right? From Blackpink. I think she was the one who started that trend also in general.
Uy, pero like, sobrang side note lang. Oh my God, sorry. Nagkukwento lang ako at this point. Sobrang gusto ko ng projector.
Same.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like,
Me
Yeah.
and my sisters want one also.
Diba?
To get the cinema experience in here. No?
Yeah. Agree. Okay, any last before we head on to our next topic, any last discoveries or piece of media that you think you discovered or appreciated more in the last
Okay, maybe just to end, additional piece na I have been it's actually it's Discord. Like I have most of the time kasi when after work I'm just on my own, like whether I just do whatever I want, and then suddenly one of my college friends invited me to join their game nights, and now every week I'm playing with them, and even during work I'm talking to them. It gives me the feel na I'm not alone at home. Like it gives me the feel na I'm still talking to someone. Parang it just makes me feel na there's this society still around me, even if they're not physically with me. It's a really good reminder to na I still have friends and stuff. Wala, nakakaano lang tuwa na I can and Discord is such a great place pala to meet people because there's a lot of public channels pala. I didn't know that. So you can meet people from all around the world, and yun nga, you get to have game nights with friends. So yun nga, that's something it has like for this siguro like in 2021, Discord has been the greatest discovery for me. Or maybe late lang pumasok.
And where do we find these public Discord groups?
Yeah, I know a lot of YouTubers. That's how they interact with their fans. Like they have their own Discord channels. So that's how they get input from their viewers. They ask them, "Oh, I'm about to watch this new series. If you wanna watch it with me, and we can have a live discussion, we can just join my Discord channel." Parang ganun. And there are even some. I'm not a gamer, but I know my friends join gamer channels where they all just discuss about mga bago nilang purchase and stuff. They watch tournaments together. It's crazy na how big these communities can be, and it's sometimes public and sometimes private. Natutuwa ako like may ganito pala na source of of community. It's amazing.
It's definitely that's one of the benefits, as Jeremiah, I mean, circling back to what Jeremiah mentioned earlier about connecting with people, and especially,
Yeah.
here now we still get to talk everyone on this podcast, on this show, throughout the year, and it's nice to have people to have discussions, kind short discussions lang about our thoughts. So yeah, thank you to everyone who's been with us and who continues to be with us in the past year. As we head on to our second year, or third year na pala, rather.
And can I just say, Cholo,
Yay.
I think if it weren't for the pandemic, I wouldn't be as active with popcorn as I currently am. Because like I live in Parañaque, I don't think I'd go to Ateneo
The booth.
every week. So this was, I guess, blessing in disguise na rin.
I guess this will be like eventually a merging or a hybrid of like live people in the studio and people on Zoom. We will see about that when it does happen. And I would
Parang-
also go ahead.
Parang Graham Norton show lang, where they have
Yeah.
like special guests on Zoom.
Yeah.
Like all the talk show hosts now. And lastly, I just wanna shout out to my Animal Crossing villagers. I haven't like met up with them for so long now. I hope they're in a good place. And wala akong magandang seg to the next segment, but now we're gonna be moving towards talking about award season in general. This isn't really a deep dive.
My
but
favorite
we will
season.
discuss some of the hot topics or our hot thoughts about what has been happening. Well, the Golden Globes kicked it off late in Feb, but that's been a while from now, from the time we're recording. So we will be talking about the more recent stuff. Ito yung akin. It's Wanda.
I have nothing.
So I mean, first let's start off with the Grammys, which just
Oh.
happened a few days ago at the time of recording. Well, there's a lot of controversies and a lot of historic wins that happened in the Grammys. So of course, let's start with, I guess, the historic wins. First with Beyonce, who was awarded, or who became the most awarded vocalist of all time in the Grammys with 28 Grammys. She won 4 awards that night, winning the Best Music Video for Brown Skin Girl, Best R&B Performance for Black Parade, and 2 awards with Megan Thee Stallion, namely Rap Song and Rap Performance for the Savage remix. And also Megan won Best New Artist of the Year. So, yon, congrats Queen Bee. Any thoughts on that? I mean, she was the most nominated this year, so, and I guess she ended up getting the bulk of I feel like everything was spread out to everyone else but her. I mean, not but her, but
Oh,
like
yeah.
she got more than everyone else got, at least one. Parang ganun.
I feel like this just cements Beyonce's her position as our generation's Michael Jackson. She's like the definitive entertainer right now, and like to deny it, you'd be like, "Are you blind?" Because
Mhm.
I love her, but yeah, well deserved. And I love how no one even knows she'd attend the Grammys. So like
true.
when she showed up, we were like, "Oh."
And her face of being so proud for Megan when they won,
Yeah.
and like Trevor Noah was like, "Oh, congratulations!" And she was like, "Okay, this is happening." But like I feel like it's also so nice to see how she's cementing also her legacy, not just as that performer of the generation, but also in bringing about new artists to the world or to the industry, like supporting Megan,
Yeah.
supporting Chloe and Halle, and
She's always been so supportive of rising talent. Like in 2009, the MTV VMA, she was the one who gave Taylor Swift
Yeah.
her moment to say her speech when Kanye West interrupted her. That was so gracious of her, and I think that's a hallmark of Beyonce talaga. She's always been so gracious and supportive. She knows what it's like to be a young woman in the industry, and she's always been so supportive of young female talent.
Yeah. Actually, super idol to Beyonce, by the way. I just keep getting disappointed that I feel like, and obviously maraming ganito dito sa Grammys and also other awards. Pero like, I feel like she never gets the main awards. Gets. I feel like they just decided to give her they don't give her the big four. She hasn't won a album of the year, right? But and then they only
Disgrace.
they only give her urban or R&B na mga awards, and I feel like obviously that's still an honor, pero wala lang. That's all for me. But obviously, like, I'm very happy na she got all of these nominations for a year that she didn't really campaign for.
Yeah.
By the way, right? Like, she didn't, did she? Yeah. So, wala lang. That's very interesting. Kasi that was one of the early conversations, right? But yeah, I mean, obviously, as we know from like Frank Ocean not submitting to Blonde, for example, like historically, hindi naman talaga fair yung treatment sa black artists. I think actually Beyonce is one of the very few exceptions to that, just because, I mean, if you think about it, like, who else has a 30-year career, right? Like her.
Like her. No.
Like, to the level of international stardom, to the level of artistic like independence and excellence. Parang it's hard for me to like name a list of people from the top of my head. Maybe that's also because hindi ako masyadong music, mas radio music.
Mhm.
And I think, just stemming off what Jay said, I think a lot of Beyonce's success is credited to how, what's the right word? The non-offensive word to say this. She was so friendly to white audiences. Like, she...
Ability.
I remember this SNL skit from when Lemonade, when Lemonade came out, where a lot of white people were like, Beyonce's black? Because it's only now that ever since the Lemonade era, she really leaned into her blackness.
Yeah.
And nowadays you get stuff like Black is King. But the Beyonce of 20 years ago was singing about being single. And, all these pop, it's very, it's the very mainstream. I feel like it's only now that she's earned the right, not the right, but then she's felt comfortable enough in her success to really create the art that she wants to create.
Also, can we talk about the fact that Blue Ivy has a Grammy? She has a Grammy. At how old? 13?
She has one
Young.
What? Is she 13?
Isn't she younger?
She's 9.
Probably
9, yeah, she's 9.
I was like, I'm not that old.
We
Yeah,
also
I'm not
remember how Blue was just born like maybe yesterday, or parang that's how it feels.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like she's
young.
that old. at
Blue
this
Ivy
point.
in my head and Northwest, they're celebrity babies. And even
Yeah.
Suri Cruz, for that matter.
Oh my god, how
I mean,
will Suri
Now
Cruz
Blue
like-
Ivy has one more Grammy than another group we will be talking about later.
Oh no!
No comment ako dyan.
Wait lang, wait lang.
We're not part of this.
Wait lang.
I'm
Blue
ready to
Ivy,
be. Go ahead.
Ivy was born 2012, the year we entered college. Emil.
the year the world was supposed to be ending, but it's
Yeah.
instead.
I feel like tomorrow she's just gonna land the modeling campaign and we'll be like, what?
Diba? Oh my god, amazing. That child. Sorry about that.
I have
But
to
yeah,
say though, I love
Beyonce,
that music video. I love that music video though. Brown Skin Girl is
That's-
so nice. It's so
Yeah.
I felt it. I'm so happy. Of all the wins of Beyonce's wins, that was the one I was so happy for. I love that one. Such
And
a good one.
they got Lupita Nyong'o for the Pretty Like Lupita line. That's so cool to me. It's so cool.
Okay, and now we head on to the next historic win of the night. My background, my shirt, my life. We have Miss Taylor Swift with her third album of the year Grammy, and her and this is like she's the first woman to ever get three album of the year Grammys, and she won these in three different decades, which is also really like interesting that she did win Fearless in 2010, 1989 in 2016, and now in 2021 or 2020 Folklore, which is really, I feel like really deserved it. I mean, everything was, a lot of the nominees were deserving, but I feel like in terms of the pandemic era album, like what's the most like defining moment, or in terms of like, you know, everyone is like dropped everything and listened to Folklore, and that honestly Folklore was like really helped me through a big chunk of that last year as well. Jace, I know you have a lot of feelings about Taylor Swift as well.
I love her. I love her. Feeling ko, side note lang, feeling ko yung magiging next album of the year thrice is gonna be Adele.
Yeah, she has two already.
Yeah.
Just to, yeah.
19, 21, and then the unnamed one, right?
21, 25, and then...
And 21, 25.
She like 30 now, or 29, si Adele.
Ewan ko.
No, I know Adele and Taylor Swift are like the same age. Also.
Yeah, I think she's 30 right now.
So Adele is 30 now.
Yeah.
31.
Oh, yeah, 31.
Yeah, because Taylor Swift also just turned 31. She celebrated the fact because it's the like kabaligtaran ng 13.
13.
So,
but she didn't get her 13th Grammy, diba? She didn't.
No.
She only has 11 so far.
Sad reaction. Ako,
Go.
I love Taylor Swift. I love Taylor Swift since Taylor Swift, her album. And like, I don't know. Like, I think that Folklore is a very, very much a pandemic film. A pandemic album in the same way that I think a lot of the films which we're going to be talking about later are very much reflective of pandemic era. Right? Pero ang dami kong gustong albums na na-snub. Pero I'm really happy that she got this. I think yung conversations, maybe I'm just on date with her, pero the conversations were really more of like, is it gonna be Taylor Swift or Dua Lipa, right? And I think that Dua Lipa, yung album niya mas fever dream, mas where the gays wanted to go versus where the gays were really at, which was in the pandemic. So, yeah, and I think that as an album, like, I think it's one of her most coherent ones. I don't. Sorry, naalala ko yung music. Wait lang, nalungkot ako sa Pero yeah, ako personally, I love the album. Even if hindi siya mataas doon sa ranking ng Taylor Swift albums ko. I'm so
the red slander on my ranking though. I got my red was like number 8 of 9 albums.
What?
Kinda like, I'm sorry everyone.
I love red. Yung red, yung feeling ko talaga dapat nanalo siya ng album.
Yes, I agree. Yes.
Red is my number one by a very, very large margin.
Like,
I think it's legitimately like one of the best albums of the decade. So
yeah. But also, can I just say, like, Taylor Swift won for album of the year for 3 different genres, right?
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
country, pop.
Can argue.
And then,
what is genre?
What is genre?
Let's not get into that now.
What is genre?
Let's not talk about that now.
I got more flashbacks.
Going back to Folklore, I feel like it's such a career versus Dua Lipa, for example. I think Folklore is a very career-defining moment also for Taylor Swift, breaking out of the boundaries people have put her in the last few years. And I think it's deserving also because of that fact na, you know, she's just been marked as a certain type of artist na rin at a point, and she proved to everyone, even the indie lovers, the folk lovers, that, you know, she can still do this and she can still shock a lot of people about what she can do, and prove that her lyrical song writing genius is really up there. Emil, thoughts
I
on
was just
that?
gonna say, no, I mean, halos wala akong ambag for the Grammys discussion because I don't know, like the same way that Deany isn't really caught up with current music, current movies. Like I don't know anything about music really. But like folklore was, I was always like, I was never really a Taylor Swift fan. Not because I didn't, not because I actively disliked her, just because she wasn't really my thing. But folklore was the thing that convinced me, and it caused me to go back and revisit the stuff that she put out before. And my reaction to listening to her stuff again is, number one, her albums are very very long. Number two, like nobody told me that her non-singles were so good. I mean, what's the title?
Yes.
What's the
Her
what's,
singles are better than her singles.
Yes.
I know.
He
And
has a history of choosing really bad
Yeah.
singles.
I don't remember. I can't name exactly like which non-singles like I really really like. But what's the title of the first track of Red? State of Grace.
State
That's
of
like
Grace.
that's like my favorite Taylor Swift song right now because I didn't know that she could write stuff like that. So, like. I don't know if like I'm sort of like a normie among like Taylor Swift fans for only getting into her through Folklore and Evermore, but I mean it reintroduced me to her stuff. I still have a hard time listening to like Love Story because I hate Romeo and Juliet. So like the reason why I don't like that song isn't necessarily because of the song, it's because I hate Romeo and Juliet.
It's not a love
so
story.
So did their families,
Exactly.
diba? That's why they died, diba?
Yes, exactly. Anyway, yeah. Yun lang yung contribution ko sa Taylor Swift discussion.
Can I say stuff as a reformed Taylor Swift hater?
Oh, wow. Okay.
And emphasis on reformed because this is somewhere where me and Cholo have butted heads in the
Have we?
past. Yeah, like I clearly remember a fight in Plebsem. But anyway, I feel like the folklore era and the Evermore era is Taylor Swift returning to her roots. There came a time where the 1984 squad goals
89.
era specifically
89.
where 89 where it felt so manufactured and not she didn't feel like the fearless Taylor where you know what endeared Taylor to so many fans, myself included back in high school, was how she was that girl who would write song lyrics down in a notebook about her crushes. She was so earnest and honest and so willing to put her feelings down into song. And then 1989 happened and all this association with supermodels, it all felt so fake. And then now she's going back to her, it's not country, but her folk roots, which it's so much more true and it rings
To the kind, yeah.
the kind, parang, yeah. So like, good for her. Like this really is her niche. I feel like she could be the Joni Mitchell of her generation. I mean, like big,
yes.
big shoes to fill in. But
That actually kind of, yeah. I have complicated Taylor Swift feelings, and that is like the crux of it. I feel like a lot of people miscast her as Joni for, yeah, real fans. Joke lang. A lot of people try to make her the Joni Mitchell of the 2010s when their styles are so different that, like, it's so strange to me because Taylor Swift's lyric writing is a lot more punk rock than singer-songwriter. There's not a lot of poetic structure. There's not a lot of like, it doesn't feel deliberate. It doesn't feel written. It feels like she's just, okay, I'm going to scribble this in a notebook. This is my first draft, but any other draft is going to be worse. The first draft is going to be pure. It's going to be great. And that's, honestly, it's kind of punk. And it's not like, when you read a Joni Mitchell lyric, it's like, she obviously drafted this like 20 times. But for Taylor Swift, it's like, it's pure and honest. And her best stuff feels like a first draft. It feels like she got it right on the first draft.
It feels
which
like
is
Diane.
yeah, it feels distinct, and I'm like, it's so weird how people try to make comparisons. Taylor Swift is the Taylor Swift of our generation. She's not like
Anyone
it's
else?
so hard to find an analog for her because the style and the method clash so much. That's mine.
or
That's
like,
my
sorry,
umbrella.
yeah, she's not a Joni. She's more of a Carly Simon.
Yes, that's good. I like that one. I like that.
Parang writing about your exes in catchy tunes. I like Taylor now.
Yeah, Taylor good. Taylor good.
Yes, correct. Joke lang yun. Yes, correct. But I mean, yun na nga. I mean, we're seeing the legacy of Taylor in a lot of new artists. Also, like Olivia Rodrigo is very upfront about having Taylor as one of her idols, and even like Conan Gray, one of the artists also who says Taylor Swift is one of his writing inspirations. So good job, and we're gonna continue to um, look forward at least to what comes next, because you never know what she's doing next. Aside from the re-recordings, of course, it's very unpredictable at this point. And enough about Taylor. Congrats to our other faves. Any other faves you want to mention from the winners before we go to the last Grammys topic?
From the winners, grabe.
Megan Thee Stallion.
Yes,
Megan.
Meg.
My current favorite girl in hip hop right now. She and like I knew her from Savage and all the TikTok songs, but then I watched her NPR Tiny Desk
Tiny Desk?
concert. Talent. I fell in love. I recommend. I will link it to our group later. And I love how, and I mentioned this with Prince and Cholo, I think, when we were talking about the Grammy nominations. Currently, like in hip hop, when you talk about women in hip hop, you have Nicki and Cardi, and they're famous for butting heads and dissing their opponents in their lyrics. And Meg just comes in, she just raps about, she's like the Lizzo of hip hop. She just raps about how hot she is, and that's so. I love her for that. And yeah, all of her songs are a bop. Her flow is amazing. Very well deserved.
The only like other Grammy winners that I really like listen to are, well, it's one person. Like not that she really cares about the Grammys, but Fiona Apple won 2 Grammys for the first time in like how many years. And again, I'm just so happy that the rock categories were so dominated by women, which it always makes me so happy, because in like the comment sections for the songs, like after the nominations, and damning dudes who are complaining that parang, this isn't rock or whatever. I'm like, whatever, man. Like nothing is rock. There's no genre. Anyway, yes.
And it's rock. Like Phoebe Bridgers is so rock. I don't know what.
Exactly.
Like, it's so like traditional rock.
Where's the guitar solo?
Guitar solo in Kyoto rules.
But that's true. I mean, genre has really been like very flexible and not even like a thing anymore these days.
I mean, after Old Town Road, which is number 1, it's hip hop. Number 2, it's country. Number 3, the backing track is a 9 Inch Nails song. So like, how more genre bending can you get than that?
And you get a remix with
Billy Ray Cyrus.
With Billy Ray Cyrus.
You also get a remix with
There's-
RM. I think it was RM of BTS.
Nothing's real anymore.
That's true.
I think in the post Lady Gaga world, genre is dead.
And congrats to Dua Lipa, Best Pop Album. Before we head to Gaga, Best Pop Album of the Year, Future Nostalgia. Deserved. Also and of course, that very controversial category this year, which is the Best Pop Duo / Group.
Wait, sorry.
Go ahead.
Can I say stuff about Dua?
Yeah.
I love her. She gave us a dance album for a year where there was no dancing.
And after she was being like, you know what, Dua's not a dancer, Dua's not a performer, she proved everyone wrong also with Future Nostalgia.
Someone tweeted and I kept laughing for like 5 minutes. It was such a great idea to bully
her
to Lipa to be a performer. Because grab it from those days she's involved, man. But then like I feel like Future Nostalgia is that album where you really see Dua stepping into her own in pure diva fashion. Like her looks got better. She had a good stylist. She had a great choreographer. Her sound got more defined in this album. Like she's really leaning into the disco, neo disco of it all. I love her, and like I'm perfect album for working out. If hot tip.
and really like feeling it's also another pandemic vibe album, yung Break My
Nostalgia.
Heart.
Yeah.
Like I should have stayed at home. That was at the beginning of the pandemic, right? And also Harry Styles won best
Yes,
pop
yes.
song,
I'm
pop
happy.
solo
I'm so happy.
performance for Watermelon Sugar. Congrats to him. That's his first. I feel like he should have been nominated or given more love in
Oh,
general with
definitely.
the type of music he's been coming out. And with the blessing of a lot of like greats also. I think Stevie Nicks being one of
Stevie
them.
Nicks. Stevie Nicks said in an interview that she loves Harry Styles because he's not a pop idol, he's a rock idol, and
Yes,
I see it.
I see it. Yes.
And that also iconic moment of him and Taylor talking to each other again publicly but without masks. So yun. And finally, I guess we're heading to that last controversial bit, which I feel like a lot of people aren't. A lot of people are afraid of speaking out about this. That's why it's in the middle of this show. And the best pop best pop duo and group song, and that is "Rain on Me." Deserve. That's a song we really all love in the pandemic, and we wish we could like dance to and enjoy with a lot of people in public. But of course, one of the most historic nominees for that category is of course BTS, who was the first Korean group to ever be nominated for that. And ayun, a lot of ARMY were upset about them not winning that award. And of course, that also sparks a lot of conversation between ARMY, the toxic ARMY, the non-ARMY people. And it's just kind of sad that it's a whole complex discussion, because a lot of ARMY or BTS supporters are also not supporting that kind of rhetoric that the super hardcore fans are like really putting out there. Like I think Rain on Me got 100,000 dislikes on YouTube for the music video after it won, just because BTS lost against that song. And it's just really like sad na parang like, why can't we just enjoy that? It's an honor itself to be nominated in that category and being breaking boundaries as BTS in that white award show. And like it's just like very disappointing to see a lot of the attacks that are happening. And parang it's just so sad to see, why can't we just celebrate music? Why can't we celebrate each other? Even in the K-pop world, kasi it also translates into that sometimes, where ARMY is just like BTS, and what about the rest of the industry of K-pop? There's a lot of great K-pop out there, and people are also saying it's a scammies because they got BTS and kept them at the end of the show because they just want the viewers. What about BTS having all these accolades and numbers for Dynamite and still they did not win? Parang nagsisilabasan lahat ng mga ganyang paratang for the award show. Although of course the award show, the award giving body itself has a history of being very biased against certain types of music or artists. But with that putting that aside, I feel like it's just also that's how it goes for awards. You can't win everything, I feel. And I also love BTS very much. They're my gateway into K-pop, but it's just sad that fans can't get out of that bubble to appreciate others that are not their own fandom. So yun lang. And
Yeah.
parang at the end of the day, it's also marketing. Of course, everyone else went onto that show to perform, whether in whatever position that they placed them on the program. And they didn't say a thing that if Taylor had lost that award, I of course would have been disappointed. But I wouldn't be like, oh, Taylor went to perform and she didn't win. What a injustice. Parang ganon, diba? So parang, what are your thoughts on this whole thing? And it's not ending until how many days after the award show? Ang dami
I
kong
can
sinabi.
go as an agnostic. as an agnostic, and I'm like, whatever. I'm on private on Twitter now, so like, I'm happy.
I love
Anyway, so uh, I will say a lot of people got the mute button like 2 days ago, just because it's normal. I think it's award show rhetoric that comes up a lot. I like to imagine if Parasite hadn't won Best Picture, I feel like we might have seen something similar but not as intense in the
Okay.
like but also in the sense that it reminded me of I was thinking about buying a book. It's Fangirl Scenes from Modern Music Culture.
Oh, yeah.
uh Parang the writer makes a distinction between fans and stans, which I thought was interesting, and I've always like used it now. It's like fans are like traditional. They're like, I like the music, and what matters is I like the music. It's very almost famous. So, it's like that's also the way I approach it. Like none of the artists I like were nominated except Fiona Apple. And I'm like, whatever. But stands are different, at least in the nomenclature na ginamit, kasi they're formed by under different like communities, and then there's a focus on numbers, on competition, on winning. And I don't know. I mean, maybe it's so hard to reconcile that with a notion of fandom that comes from liking a certain underappreciated thing, because you're not going to get awards for that. But I think that they're so divorced in context, like divorced from each other in like dynamic, that to conflate like how a stan approaches it versus how a fan would approach it isn't I don't know how productive a discussion that is, because I've figured out that they approach it so differently that I'm just like, okay, they do their thing, and I'm just gonna do like my thing. But it was critical mass nga after the Gram. It's just like people were fighting on my feet. I'm like, calm down, guys. It's an like I didn't I didn't see anyone who was like this when Green Book won. I'm just saying. And Green Book is actually bad. Like, it's different when a good nominee beats another good nominee. It's just you're not gonna win all the awards nga, as you said. But like it's a fascinating subculture to just really think about. Maybe I will pick up that book now.
But I mean, I guess you just have to show respect at some point,
Yeah, right.
regardless
some
if you're a
point,
fan
okay,
or
I'll
a
give that.
stan. And they did not really show respect to not just the artists but also their fans. And
Mhm.
I mean, a lot of um, people surrounding the matter. And I feel like is Dynamite also BTS's best song? Maybe not. I mean, yun na nga, we were talking about Taylor Swift's Red not winning and that also being a really good album. But that only inspired Taylor to make her winning album, which was 1989. And, that kind of like, it's not the end of the world to like lose that one time. It's not the last time BTS will be nominated. So, I mean, I feel like it's also just going to push them harder to break even more boundaries than they already are. So it's just, respect lang sana. And ayun.
Respeto naman, guys.
Yeah,
Ito naman, guys.
guys, respeto naman.
And like, I want to add, this isn't new for boy bands. Like, and not even just boy bands. Ever since like the Elvis days, the Beatles, in their first few years, Backstreet Boys, One Direction, and like, I believe talaga na too much blind following of anything is never good. Like, look at evangelical Christians who are super hardcore, or like Trumpers. Fangirl, or the movie explains it properly. Or ayun.
Or sila.
So like, I think every time you put a group of attractive male singers who can sing and dance really well, there's bound to be some toxicity in the fandom.
That's factual.
It's like it's a rule of life.
Yeah.
Ako
Ayun.
personally, nalulungkot lang ako kasi parang yun yung naaalala ng mga tao about BTS during the Grammy, rather than the fact that they're
Groundbreakingness of
a
that.
groundbreaking nomination.
Yeah, I mean, yun na nga, don't the stans see that they're also tainting the image of their idols because of how they're acting, right? They probably
Okay.
don't.
This is
They're
the
kind of
story.
fine.
medj bading nito, but then this reminds me of when Valentina in season 9 and fans. This reminds me of like all the toxicity when she got eliminated and everything. It's very
And the moment of silence to last week's Drag Race eliminated queen as well. I'm just gonna say that. Any last thoughts on the Grammys before our Oscar nominees talk?
It's not that big of a deal.
Yes.
Like,
Meron pa tayo.
None of this. None of this.
None of this is important.
we'll talk about that later. Pero yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The Grammys really is just a great place for recording artists to like reinforce their brand and get some publicity out of the red carpet. And great because like a lot of them did.
Mhm.
And even newcomers like her. And I'll be honest, I don't know her.
Oh my God.
but like she really made it.
It's a quotable moment.
Sorry, I thought of that joke kanina. I just needed to sneak it in. But anyway, she was able to make an impression, and that's really what award show is at its core about.
Yeah.
Get as much publicity as you can. Parang Kim Kardashian Hollywood lang.
Oh my gosh. An iconic archive of when was that? 2015.
Yeah, 16 yeah.
Okay, and now we head on to the Oscar nominees, which were mentioned, announced a few days ago. Matt leads with 10 nods for this year, and some historic nominations include Riz Ahmed and Steven Yeun, making history as first Asian American men to be nominated for actor in a leading role. Any thoughts on general nominations? I feel like there's a lot to like unpack, and we haven't all seen all the nominees to be able to like say our full piece or full opinion about it.
I can go.
Go ahead.
As someone who has palpably not seen many of the nominees, and I will like when we do get into a deeper Oscars discussion, I will reserve my controversial Nomadland takes for then.
Can't wait.
But I think what's interesting about like the nominations is I'm like, you know how the Oscars have a reputation for being not diverse, and everyone gets mad all the time when they're not diverse. I'm looking at like the nominees list, and it's like the most diverse I've seen the Oscars be, and I'm like suspect because it could all actually like end up, being boring. But also it's interesting the notion of the idea of representation and how it's so important to like a lot of people. But I've also been reading about like it's sort of like when the establishment begins to co-opt representation as a sort of like as sort of good PR.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, and I'm just like, it's sort of you should be suspect that they're nominating all of this. You should be suspect that they put Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield in the same category, so neither will win because they're gonna cancel each other out even if neither are supporting actor. So like it should be like the nominees are diverse, and sure there's representation, but like how does that translate to actual production?
Yeah.
And I think that's the more interesting. That's an interesting way to look at the nominees. Although I'm not unhappy at the nomination. Like, I mean, there are some quibbles. Like, I would have wanted Dick Johnson is Dead on documentary.
Yeah.
I would have wanted First Cow Anywhere, Somewhere, even in best visual effects, anywhere. Like, I would, yeah. I mean, there's some stuff that you can complain about, but generally, it's a strong, very Oscars slate. I'm not disappointed, but that in itself is like, how will they disappoint me this year? But
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
Later on. I was just gonna say I was gonna reserve my thoughts on the individual films. Like the 3 of the Best Picture nominees I've seen, I don't like as much as everyone does. So I'll save those for a deeper discussion.
All right.
I was gonna say Deany brings up a really good point about representation. I feel like a lot of people confuse representation in art, like good representation in art with representation in awards shows. Like
Yeah.
that is a completely different thing. And the latter doesn't actually matter that much because if the awarding body is still mostly made up of old white people who really don't give a shit outside of their big ceremony, then it doesn't really matter so much. I mean, we can still be glad that people who wouldn't normally get the spotlight are finally getting a platform to like just be out there. Like Jeremiah said also about how the Grammys are really just one big branding thing. It's sort of the same for well any awards show really. So I mean it's possible for us, like cognitively speaking, to be happy for Riz Ahmed and Steven Yeun and
Yes.
Chloe Zhao, but at the same time like wishing that the Oscars wasn't the way that it was. And like my thoughts on the nominations in general, I'm okay with them. Like after spending some time thinking, 'cause usually I find something to be mad about. Like I'm not really that mad about anything. Like I like really like a lot of the films that are nominated, but at the same time, because like the past year was like we watched movies outside of cinemas and we were at home and whatnot. Like it's just like I feel like all of us saw so many diverse things. Like we saw like lots of independent film and lots of things that we normally wouldn't be able to see in a cinema, I think. So seeing the nominations now, it's still a little underwhelming because like given the weird viewing year that we all had, it's so strange that the nominations this year aren't weird. Like there aren't like the smaller films and whatnot. I mean, there are a lot of small films, but there's no Never Rarely, Sometimes Always. There's no.
Oh, I forgot about that one. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I know. There's no like the nominees for like the technical awards are still all like American
Yeah,
productions and whatnot. Like there's such a lack of imagination in those categories because people had the entire year to watch things online, to watch things from different countries, but pagdating ng Oscar nomination morning, like it was still lots of Western productions, and it's just so tiring. But yeah, I mean, like I'm not for once I'm not like that mad necessarily about the. I do not think that Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield are going to cancel each other out. I think Kaluuya is definitely gonna win. I'm still happy to see Lakeith there just because like he's the most anti-Oscar nominee ever because he's such a weird dude.
Yeah, he is.
It just seems like that's not my thing.
Exactly. So, but like just what I said at the beginning, like I'm happy for like individual people who are nominated, and I'm still so about awards in general. Even while I participate in all the discourse and whatnot, just because this is the only like competition that I follow. It's like sports to me because I don't really watch sports. I don't watch like reality TV. So this is my reality.
What about
TV.
the Film Academy of the Philippines, Emil?
Oh my god. I have things to say about that. We can talk about it later.
We can talk about it too.
I guess yun na nga, we're heading more towards the direction of talking about awards in general than the nominees this year.
Yeah.
And yun na nga, the question is, are awards even still relevant at this point? Right? And the answer is not really. Not exactly in the same way that they were before.
Not in the same.
Not in the same way.
I'd say yes, just because as much as we whine about that, awards are still such a big factor in increasing the revenue of artists.
Yeah.
From a business perspective, I can understand why they'd invest so much in campaigning and trying to win because it really does boost your career. But in terms of judging whether something is good, parang babaw.
It's so
That's your only
subjective
metric.
na these days. As Emil was saying, we've seen so many things and it's just not the same anymore for everyone to have a collective like, oh, this is the best at this point na everything's so accessible and everything is so, diverse. And I feel like I have the infinity stones of streaming in my hands and I can't even choose what to watch at this point. Because sometimes, I have the access to Netflix, Disney, HBO, Amazon, Hulu, everything. Even I want 'Diba?
Yeah.
Parang all those are like just so accessible to us now that what we're watching is not really the same at the same time anymore the way it was before.
Yeah.
I have a analogy for awards like across the board. It's sort of like going to an Ivy League school. It may make you look better in job interviews, or it's impressive on your resume, but doesn't mean that you're the best candidate out there.
Ivy League ba or
I want to say the local counterpart, pero I was scared, so I
Pwede
believe
naman yan.
we're removed from that.
Mm.
Yeah. Go, Jace.
Um, okay, so I have a very difficult relationship with award season. Kasi at least more recently, kasi like after watching like more films and after realizing that so many amazing directors throughout history have not had any of these like major awards, right? Like Ingmar Bergman doesn't have an Academy Award for directing, for example, for directing, right?
He's only been nominated once.
But he doesn't have
Yeah, he
diba?
doesn't have, and he only has one nom. So
David
that's how it
Lynch
goes.
has only what?
Mhm.
Has only
One.
An
honorary.
honorary.
Honorary. Yeah.
So parang mga ganun. Pero at the same time, like, ako kasi, ang huge belief ko is that award season is only a starting point for young cinephiles. Yun yung palagi kong frame of mind. It's like, this is where people can go to if they want to watch. Tapos, if they want to watch the who influenced this filmmaker or who these people were working with before that, that's a great way to start. Pero for people to think that it's like the penultimate of artistic excellence, that's not true. But here's the thing, like awards season isn't just about artistic excellence. It's like Jeremiah said, it's also about money. And actually, and not only about money. The reason I think they matter also is because of history. Because a lot of films don't get a place in history because no one talks about them. And doon ako nalulungkot. So ako kasi parang mas recently, I'm more interested in films that parang don't belong to like the dominant narratives, short films, mga ganun. Pero, and it's also because of like what I personally can consume now. Kasi ang hirap mag-consume ng films, guys. As in, how do people binge watch stuff? Hindi ko talaga alam kung paano. But like, for example, bigay lang ako ng example in terms of like marketing or whatever. Nomadland, which is one of the, has 6 Oscar nominations, right?
Six, yeah.
Interestingly, Nomadland was the first film that was released in drive-in cinemas na nag-open sa US.
Oh.
Diba? And it's film that's essentially about being in a car, diba? And everything. So that in itself is both, that's most people, yun yung first cinema experience nila after lockdown. 2, it's one of their most memorable, obviously, because first time nilang manood in lockdown and everything. And 3, I think that plays a lot into marketing, right? That the viewing experience mimics the film. So that in itself plays a lot into why it's so memorable. I remember that was said sa Big Picture na podcast. And I think now mas less yung emphasis on the meet and greets and the parties, right? Kasi before sa Oscars, that campaign segment is such a huge part of it. And now that that's not as possible, obviously, iba yung nakuha nating set of nominations. But also, I think it's because a lot of the films that were Oscar bait didn't end up screening in 2020 in the window.
Oh yes, okay, yeah.
West Side
Yes,
Story.
yes, that's
Sorry, what?
like West Side Story.
All of those other films, they're not in the race. So I feel like we're getting all of these films also because na-displaced mga yun, because they're more concerned with the return, right? So again, that's one of the reasons why I think it's quote-unquote more diverse. Not necessarily because ako kasi personally may mga bets ako na wala dito, like Never Rarely, Sometimes, Always, Beginning, which is a Georgian film that is absolutely decimating, like sobrang ganda niya. And then there's also First Cow. I love First Cow, Kelly Reichardt and everything. And like there are all of those films that that don't have a place here. But I also think it's because Never Early, Sometimes Always, and First Cow played at Sundance last year before the pandemic hit, right?
Yeah, really.
Because they played early, I feel like natabunan sila compared to the others. For example, yung Delroy Lindo, I think, was
Yeah, the Five
nominated.
Bloods was
Yeah,
the
he
big
was
snuff.
nominated, right? I feel like
Affected din.
I feel like that's because malaki yung anti-Vietnamese sentiment against the film. That's by Vietnamese film critics.
Oh, and me. Yeah, no, I didn't like that part of it.
Di ba, may mga ganon. So like, it's that whole thing as well. So, yun. Basta for me, awards have only matter as much as we're willing to bet our money on it. Yun. But yeah, nalulungkot lang ako na a lot of films get erased from history because we're not willing to talk about it and because the marketing machinery doesn't want us to see it.
Mhm.
Yun.
Yeah, I feel like jumping off of that, may merit pa rin at some point na, as I mean Jeremiah was saying earlier, and I also want to bring this up, at least in the music industry side of things, or what I've experienced in awards locally, na parang sometimes people don't even show up even if they're nominated if they know they're not gonna win, and it's just like very sad for me how that kind of culture has come out here in the Philippines. I mean, is the Philippines ahead of its time, making awards kind of useless at this point? Or is it sad that people aren't coming out to celebrate at least the honor of being nominated
Yeah.
for such award-giving bodies? Because I've had a lot of invitations for our artists that I work with. Oh, you're nominated, you're invited to attend the show or even perform in the show, and their question would be like, mananalo ba? Yun agad yung first question, mananalo ba? And I'm like, can't we just like be happy that we're being invited to perform, to promote our song, or like even just to be there and like be with the industry and celebrate the art? Of course, there's a lot of factors then coming into that, and
Yeah.
it's not just strictly about music, because I'm sure in the film industry ganun din na, you know, if you're not gonna win, people are just not gonna show up. Parang yung going back to like Taylor Swift, BTS, at least BTS showed up, 'di ba? And Taylor Swift and all the artists who didn't necessarily win but were still nominated, it's still like respected at some point. But here kasi parang it's just like, wow, this is sad. People don't attend just because they don't know if they're gonna win or not. Yun lang, there's like a mini rant in there.
I'll bring up since you asked about FAMAS. See, we actually Jason and I kind of talked about this also on his podcast with Basilio, 20 somethings podcast. I mean, like, full transparency naman, like I personally would, like, I would vouch for the couple of years that I was involved in FAMAS, just because when I was in the room with Senator Kili and everyone, it really felt like everyone was very self-aware about the fact that awards are a very political, branding driven thing. So the conversations that we personally had, the jury had, about who to award, didn't revolve around like who was like objectively the best, ganito, ganito. It was really, people were really thinking of what kind of message do we send, which filmmakers do we encourage through these awards. But what I don't think I mentioned in JC's podcast that I forgot, but that I think is really important, is I feel like, again, I can only really speak for the couple of years I was at FAMAS. There was more importance placed on writing citations for all of the nominees than for the actual awards night. And I feel like we got more social media buzz and we got more like gratitude from the nominees through the citations we wrote for them on their nomination plaques. So it was interesting because, like, it made me think of how in a lot of awarding ceremonies, when people get nominated, that's just sort of it, and their names are just on the list, and then most of them lose when it comes to awards night. But like, this is the first time I had encountered an awarding ceremony where there was more care put to letting every single nominee know that we're putting you on this list for a very specific reason. We're gonna write it down in a nice glass plaque, and we're gonna send it to you, so that even if you lose, you'll remember that you weren't just a name on a list. So I thought that was a really interesting way that they went about the awarding. Again, of course, I mean, it's not perfect because you're still picking like 5 people or 10 people out of like an entire year of cinema. And like my stance when it comes to award ceremonies is always that, they're always going to be imperfect. They're always going to be, they're always going to look for views first. But I also think they're going to be around forever. And because they're going to be around forever, I think it's worth, they're worth paying attention to. Just like if for nothing else, just to make sure that they don't give bad people power. Like I'm always thinking of the Oscars giving Roman Polanski an Oscar in 2003, and everybody in that room standing up, and it's disgusting to think about, and it's disgusting to think that Roman Polanski is still winning awards in 2020. That's when Adele, Enel, and Celine Sciamma like stood up and left, which is like the best thing. But it's still like freaking. It's weird that award ceremonies have so much power to, or at least like economic power to promote like the films of pedophiles and whatnot. So like for me at least, that's part of the reason why I'll still pay attention to them, just because just to make sure that, or just to, I don't know, yeah, you get what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, and I mean, circling back to what Jay said earlier, then it's a nice way to at least see what a sort of consensus about what's like in the culture or what's in the conversation.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Na parang, sometimes in the plethora of like streaming services and whatnot, you don't really know what to watch anymore. And, the letterbox of it all is there, and Twitter is there. But sometimes there's just, it's nice to have a reference also, like, and also like an imprint of time in some sense. Na this is what the culture was in this year. As like we were saying, Taylor Swift Folklore was such a pandemic album. Parang ganon na when we look back at 2020, we see that imprint in those nominees. Although syempre nominations continue to evolve in representation and all that, but it's also a nice way to look at in terms of time and history nga, as mentioned in earlier.
Yeah.
So yun, any last thoughts about awards and whatnot before we wrap up?
Very shallow thought.
Okay, mine is also super shallow. go first.
Very shallow.
Tell me something, girl.
Very, very shallow thought, but I'm extremely impressed by the celebrities so far in awards season and the stylists who they still manage to serve looks without a literal red carpet.
Oh my god.
And like before, people, one of my pet peeves is, oh, why do people care about what they wear to award shows? I don't think people understand how much money and how many contracts go into the red carpet.
Who you're wearing.
Yeah, like celebrities get paid to wear a brand for the night. And more than that, it's that if every one of them wins, it's the picture. It's in history. It makes sense in image. Anyway, sorry.
And it leaves an imprint na parang, Lady Gaga wore this meat dress in
Lady Gaga came in an
MTV.
egg.
Exactly. And, those will forever be iconic moments in...
Or Bjork wore a swan to the Oscars.
Or RuPaul went as himself in a camp-themed red carpet.
He is camp. So parang... Anyway, I digress. That's a topic for another episode. But I'm impressed by that even without an actual red carpet, designers are still sending stuff. Celebrities are wearing great looks, even greater than in the pre-pandemic award season, to be honest. Like, people are really turning out even if they're posing in their backyard.
And now may matching masks pa. Like
yeah, I love Taylor's matching mask.
The May Queen.
So very
weekly.
excited for the Oscars. It's Hollywood's prom night, as everyone calls it.
Sana ganun rin yung prom night ko. My God.
Imagine
Socially
wearing
distanced.
Valentino to your prom. I wore like my Lolo stocks.
Let's go and call Meryl Streep and James Corden to like make a whole song.
Wait,
We don't talk about that.
so it turned out that Jer's comment was way more like mine is. I was really just gonna say that like right now, like I'm saying like, oh yeah, no, the awards first don't matter. But next year, In the Heights, Best Picture, I'm gonna care a lot.
Go,
And so it's gonna happen.
Anthony Ramos.
Anthony Ramos.
Is Navi. Perfect
Oh my God.
casting.
He's
so hot, you guys.
He's too hot for Snuffy, but I don't care.
Yeah, compared to Lynn.
Yeah. Anyway, that's really all
Can I just say, and like sobrang walang connect to anything, but Lin-Manuel has strong John Lloyd energy. John Lloyd Poggy energy. Does that make sense?
John Lloyd Poggy. Okay, I can understand that.
I get
Right?
that. Not
Like I can see him
conventionally
say,
attractive.
I can see him saying ingat.
Oh my
That's great. That's a great
That's
note
such
to
a
end
great
on.
observation.
He's not conventionally Poggy, but there's something so good. Boy next door, good boy, cute about him. Ayun lang.
Hey.
Hey.
And thanks for the final words for the night or for the day rather. Okay, and that wraps up our discussion on our lockdown anniversary and our award season thoughts. We will be having more Oscar thoughts as we draw closer to the Oscars.
Mhm.
And next we have, of course, our ending segment, which is our pop stop or our pop culture recommendations for the week of our favorite things we've seen recently and would like to recommend for people. I will begin. I finally got to watch the restored version of Kisap Mata by Mike De Leon recently, and that was just like,
Grabe siya.
wow, the power. Like, how the heck are we still in that household as a country 40 years since they made that movie? And that was like, how bold of a statement were the filmmakers making at the time when it was martial law, literally. And then now to come up with it again with the restored edition, remastered edition. It's just like very timeless, and you can really see the terror in the faces of Charito Solis, of Charo Santos, in how they were so scared of what was gonna happen to them, and it just feels so relevant still. And if you have a chance to watch it, I think it's on iWant also for streaming. Go watch Kisap Mata. So that's my recommendation for the week. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. I've been powering my way through this 40-part documentary called Women Make Film. It's sort of a reimagining of like film school taught exclusively through women directors. So, they talk about staging, setup, but it's not you don't have Godard, you don't have Fellini, you don't have Bergman, you don't have Coppola, and these are like it questions why these are our, why are these like the only filmmakers most people know? Because most people, it's so hard to name a film made by a woman before 2000 that's not Clueless. So it's asks us to imagine a world where women filmmakers got their due. And there's the usual suspects also. There's Bigelow, you get Ackerman, you have Varda. But I've discovered a lot of new filmmakers that I want to get into through the documentaries. I want to watch some Kira Muratova. I want to see some Mai Zetterling. I want to see the fun Catherine Bigelow movies that aren't about terrorism. So
There are.
it's like, yeah, Point Break. I think Point Break isn't about terrorism. I mean, you could make the case that it is.
Bank robbers.
But it's an interesting exercise because a lot of these films, the narration makes a point of saying this film is rarely seen. This film screened once and won like best director at Cannes, and then like 5 people know about it today. So it's also like to speak to Jason's point earlier about like how history, like how the canon is shaped in such a way that 99% of films are given the shaft. So it's really, I think that's the way we reverse that through meaningful curation, through meaningful preservation, through, hey, watch this movie that only 500 people have seen. You might like it. So I think that exercise is, that's what's gonna bring these hidden gems to the light, and I wanna support that. I think that's really a really interesting project.
Same.
That's a really nice recommendation.
I have to
Where can we
I have to
watch that?
rethink my recommendation.
Where can we see that or read about that?
If you have a VPN and are willing to pay $5.50 a month, it's on the Criterion channel. So, the Criterion channel again is like, if you like movies, it will be $5.50 well spent. Like, I watch like 20 films a month on Crit channel, and it has like everything you could ever want and more.
Also, that's the price of how many films here in the Philippines. That's like 1 to 2 films, depending on.
Yep.
Diba?
Which cinema?
That's like
Unless
half
you
a
know.
film in the US.
Ano?
That's half a film in the US.
Yeah, it's so expensive there. Okay, next.
You know.
Who wants to follow that?
I'll follow. Sige, I'll follow it kasi kasi makapal lang suggestion ko. Media that I consumed this week. Not exactly this week, but just a few days ago, I finally finished watching all 40 seasons of Survivor.
Oh my god!
Wow.
Holy crap!
Wait, I remember Pern saying
can't-
that in an earlier last year episode.
Oh
of
my
Survivor,
God.
and now he's finished it.
I finished
How many
it.
episodes is that?
How many?
Prince was like
16 times 14.
40.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that many.
On Wikipedia, it's 596. What
Yeah,
the hell?
yeah.
Prince?
I've seen all of 596 plus the reunion shows.
Oh my god!
Also. Yeah.
So what's your top season that you'd recommend to anyone who hasn't seen Survivor?
Obviously, I would recommend is the first one, like because it lays the groundwork for everything. But for me, the best season is it's Micronesia, fans versus favorites, because it already implements the changes that the Survivor game is going through, but it still involves the gameplay that is required to win, and it also involves favorite players of the game and fans of the game, and because you have to understand, Survivor is still a reality show, so it's not just you're not just building a society together. You also want good reality TV, and I think that's what the season that really encompasses as a game show and as a reality TV show.
Imagine being stuck on an island with your favorite.
Yeah, exactly. So that's an added layer also to the game, diba? So, but yeah, I finished 40 seasons, but that's not what I'm gonna recommend.
Preamble.
Unless you have the patience for that, go ahead. But what I will recommend is something I have not watched yet. Tomorrow I'm gonna watch the Snyder Cut.
Oh my god!
I've prepared. I don't care
Jesus.
because I have prepared 4 hours of my life already, dedicated to watching it. I don't know how it's gonna be, but for sure I know it's gonna be better than the theatrical release, because at least I know that this is the vision that the director
The analog vision.
I don't know. I'll see how the aspect ratio changes my mind. But at least I know that this is what he sort of wanted it to be. And also, I think Falcon and Winter Soldier starts tomorrow
Yes. I'm excited to see both this weekend.
Yeah, so I'm excited for that one also. But more on the Snyder Cut, because I just wanna laze around tomorrow.
Great.
Related to that, like, okay, fine. My medyo mababaw recommendation. I don't really plan on watching Snyder Cut just because wala lang. But the newest CW superhero show, Superman and Lois, is shockingly good, and it's a really good Superman story, because for once it's a Superman who's actually likable, who you can actually root for, and the story is about like
I really like Taylor
family
Hoechlin.
thing. Yeah, Tyler Hoechlin.
Guess I'm
Wala lang, it's just nice to be reminded that just because Superman is like the most powerful superhero, you can still tell interesting stories when you give him like human problems like raising kids. So that's what the show is about. Yeah, my other recommendations in terms of music, naman, a couple of albums that one I've been listening to on repeat, another I can't listen to again. The one on repeat is it's called Ignorance by the Weather Station, a Canadian band that I just discovered, and super great driving music specifically. Like I have listened to them in the car all the time, and it's perfect. I like it. I just sort of imagine I'm driving past like the sea. I don't know, but I'm not. And then the other one, and Deany knows this. It's
Wait, what song would you recommend off of that album?
oh my god, like all of them, really. Maybe like Tried to Tell You or Parking Lot, one of those. And then the other one, which I think is fantastic, that I cannot listen to again, is called An Overview on Phenomenal Nature by Cassandra Jenkins, which I thought is so beautiful, but it's so sad that I cried really hard, and I thought about lots of things, and I didn't tweet for like 3 days because I literally had a breakdown because of that album. Like not even a fun breakdown. Like it was bad. But it's a great album. Like if you're in the like space to listen to an album about grief that is really like about grief, I think it's worth it. But yeah, so
album of the year, baby. That's the
we'll
one.
see, yeah.
The one.
Yep.
Great. Next.
Okay, I'll go next because Prince talked about watching an old beloved show. I recently finished Parks and Rec. And like context, my best friend for the past 10 years has been nagging me, go watch this so we can watch something and rave about it together because we have wildly different tastes in media. And I was like, no, it's boring. Government workers. And then I watched it.
It's
oh my god.
literally the best government
Awesome.
office in the whole world.
I did not expect to fall in love this much with the show because it's funny but beyond that, it's so smartly written. Ang daming commentary, ang dami niyang social commentary na pasilip. But more than that, I think what resonated for me is just how wholesome it is. It's the comfort I needed to watch in this pandemic because it's so earnest. All the characters put their feelings out there, and
The reunion special was especially like
Oh my god, yeah.
heartwarming. Have you
I don't know where to watch it because YouTube took it down.
I'll give you a link. It's okay.
I feel like Pawnee is what America thinks it is and what it should be. The people in Pawnee.
Pawnee is so funny because it reminds me so much of the Philippines.
Actually, yeah.
And like, it's so smart the way they, yung social commentary nila because it's all so funny and then you're like, wait a minute.
It's the optimistic Veep, honestly.
Yeah. It's like, what's his name? Si Councilman Jam is literally Tito Soto. Yeah.
Okay.
And like, our government would be a better place if it was filled with
Filipino
Filipinos.
here.
Yeah.
Okay, and finally, Jace.
Oh my God, marami ako. Sobrang sorry. I've been listening a lot to Rina Sawayama.
Yes, finally. God damn it.
I
Sorry.
just started this week
I got excited.
and I'm crying. It's so good. Like from the first two songs pa lang, like Dynasty and XS, like amazing. Amazing. Especially XS, it's like a great it's so good. I'm also listening to nilink ko to kay Cholo before. This artist named Shuichi.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then yung album niya is Somniloquy. Yeah, it's a really good EP.
Something else.
Yeah, Somniloquy. Yun ata yung title. Yeah, it's on Spotify. It's really good.
Malaysia.
Yeah. I think he's young. He's from Bulacan, if I'm right. Yeah. Please support that artist because his music is crazy. Like it's so good for me. The other the other recommendations I have, I recommend talking ni Ian, which is Jobless Reincarnation, which is on YouTube. That's the other one. It's an anime. And then I'm trying to watch Community for the first time
Oh
on
my
Netflix.
gosh, another great.
Best.
Troy and
It's the
Abed.
best.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm on the first episode and I'm getting into it. Also, I'm riding the wave of Attack on Titan and
Yes.
Drag Race 13 and Drag Race UK 2.
Yes.
Those
Ding
are my
bang bong, sing sang song. Ding dang.
Wait, meron pa ako isa pang recommendation. Okay na, Cholo. Or dalawa pala, last na two, which is there are two film festivals that are happening sa tail end of March. The first is Cinema Region, which celebrates the best, supposedly, of regional cinema. For the first time, it's going online for the first time. And it's nationwide. Actually, I think it's global, so you can access those films. And then meron ring UP Film Institute is holding POV, Balik Tanaw. They're showing free curated films on YouTube at their page. Ayan. So that's until the end of March. They have a new selection every week. So yeah, those are my many recommendations. Yeah.
Tamang-tama lang sa tagal ng hinintay namin para bumalik ka dito. But naipon lahat ng mga recommendations si Jace. But we're looking forward to hearing from you more because we missed having all of you guys here. It's been a while that we have all come together again. But thank you everyone for all your input for today's episode, and of course to everyone who's listening. Thank you so much. All our episodes are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you stream your podcasts. And of course, we're here on radyo-katipunan 87.9 FM every week. Thank you to the radyo-katipunan fam. Go follow us on Popcorn with Cholo at Popcorn with Cholo at Popcorn with Cholo on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all the social medias except TikTok. We're not there yet. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
This is your stop for all things pop. Catch our all-around pop culture geek, Cholo Sediaren, as he throws in some dose of what's poppin' and what's hot in the pop culture scene here on Popcorn. Munch in with us every Thursdays from 4 to 6, only here on Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM.